All right, YouTube, we are live. Welcome. We are back. I came on a little bit early. We're not going to be getting started for another half hour, so don't shoot in your pants. We are not starting quite yet. I'm just going to invite our YouTube community again. Yes, and we are continuing. We are continuing the Matt Dillahunty versus Jordan Peterson watch parties. We did part one already that you guys can check out. If you missed that, check that out after tonight's show. But we only got 30 minutes in part one, so this is probably going to be a 4-part series. There's a lot to discuss with this conversation. For those of you who haven't heard the conversation or seen it yet, you're in for a big treat. Yeah, this is one of my favorite events I ever produced. This one right here. So let's invite the community. I'll probably do Instagram as well. Let's find a picture of Jordan and Matt. How you guys doing? Say hello in the chat. Warm the chat up. I know I have their shot somewhere here. There we go. There we go. Post. I might as well... Good evening, all. Welcome back, some of you. Welcome to the new faces in the room. The new names, I should say. Let's do a quick shout out to Instagram. All right, let's do this. All right, Instagram, we are live right now. Come join us for a watch party. This is part 2 of Matt Dillahunty versus Dr. Jordan Peterson. We did part 1. We only got 30 minutes through because there is a lot to discuss, so I hope you guys come and join us. It's starting right now in just a few minutes. Holy crap, we just got all of these piles of viewers in. What the hell is going on? It says we have 768 in the room right now. That's crazy for our watch party. So come and join us. Hope to see you. And yeah, come and have some interesting conversations with us. Did anyone just see the What the hell is going on? Welcome to everyone who's in the chat. That can't be right. What the hell's going on with the viewers? All right, Instagram. Bal Diablo says shalom. What the fuck? Are you guys seeing the same? Is someone just attacking this stream with bots? Mark K, welcome from Sydney, Australia. Welcome. Or did I actually figure out the algorithm? What the hell's going on? That can't be right. Keith Connolly, welcome. There's something going on weird with the numbers, guys. Maybe it's COVID-19. Okay. YouTube.com. I mean, I changed the description up a little bit, but that can't be. Like, we would see more people in the chat, I think. For those of you who have never been to a watch party with us, yeah, I guess everyone say hello when you get into the chat here, so we can like verify that these numbers are real. Okay, I invited Instagram. Welcome to the chat. Guys, hit the like button. We want to see how many of these people are actually real. This is going to really fuck up the way we normally do chat, I think. But it's great. I hope maybe it maybe it is the same bot kit from last night. But for those of you who have never been to the live stream before, welcome. Hit the thumbs up. Give this live stream a like. We're going to be talking Jordan Peterson and Matt Dillahunty tonight. I'm really pumped. And how many? Let me know how many of you have not even seen this discussion yet. Yeah, hit that like button, guys, just so we can actually verify if these are real people in the room. This is awesome. We got 2,100 people in the room, apparently. If we can get this up to 1K likes, I will do something insane. Like wave my wiener around. Awesome, guys. Well, this is great. This is going to be a great show. Again, if you have a question for me in the chat, just at Pangburn me, because it looks like the chat's going to be really busy today. Way busier than we've ever had. But yeah, this is great. I'm glad to have you all. Aerocard the Immortal says, yeah, someone is fucking with you, Trav. Yeah, I've no idea. But yeah, this is cool. So we still got 35 minutes until we get started, guys. I'm just going to double check this stream just to, let's see. Crazy. And if you guys are new to the channel, please subscribe. I would really appreciate it. We got lots of awesome content. If you haven't seen all of our Pangburn live events, there's a live event playlist where you can check out all the intellectual conversations. Cool. I did invite a bunch of Facebook groups today to this discussion, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, smash that like button, guys. I really appreciate it. If we can get that up to like even 100 likes, I would be psyched. Yeah, if we do have two moderators in the room, guys. We got Keith Connolly. Oh, and I don't know if our boy, I forget his name off the top of my head. Ferdy Ernest says he got a notification about the live stream. Interesting. All right. Yeah, we still got 20 minutes here, guys. We'll wait for people to keep streaming in. Well, let's say hello to some people in here. We got Beep Beep, Beep Boop Bop. We got all of the robots in the room, all the bots. Ericard the Immortal is back. Bruce Cook says, I'm not real, I'm an android. Welcome. Mary Parker gives us the white thumbs up and the brown thumbs up. Right on. Ericard the Immortal says, yeah, someone is fucking with you, Trav. 2,800. Yeah, well, I don't know why we have so many, but there's probably not that many unless someone's just like completely fucking it up. Bonnie Howe says, where's Button? Haven't ever seen this. Oh. You should be able to hit the like button on the stream. Adam Wybro says, I'm a real boy. Balls Deep, welcome, says, La Silver Surfers, are you from LA? Mary Parker says, Jordan's a pain in the ass. Keith Connolly says, it must be a glitch, though, of some sort. If there were really that many people, the chat stream would be flying. See, that's what I thought. Although, when like you're watching like a live press briefing from like Trump or something, and there'll be like 10K people in the room, the stream, like you can still read the stream. So I don't know, but we'll see what it does to the views of this actual stream. It's interesting. But again, I did. Yeah, Yes, please like and sub if you are new. We have conversations like this all the time. Well, we'll see if these bots or whatever hang out. This is great, though. Mary Parker says only 2 likes. Well, we're up to 20 likes now, and over 2K views. Must be a glitch. Yeah, there's got to be some kind of... Grant Noise says a lot of us don't want to say shit. And CR says, why are you drinking from a jar? Also, where can I get a jar? I love drinking from a jar. Well, if there is actually 3,000 of you out there tuning into this, maybe some of you don't want to hit the like button or you can't because you're on your phone or something. That's all good. However many of you are real, however many of you aren't robots, even to the bots, welcome. iSky High says, why would anyone bot this stream? Because my social media accounts get attacked by bots all the time, to be honest. Keep hitting that like button, guys. I really appreciate it. Something tells me this stream's like gonna get like shut down. There's some kind of like security breach. And we're still early, guys. We still got 20 minutes until we're going to get started, and we will start on at the regular time just so those who are coming right at 7 p.m. Pacific time won't miss anything. Okay. And yeah, please share the stream with your friends and family, anyone who's interested in having interesting conversations, difficult conversations. Please do that. iSky High says mason jars are the ultimate drinking medium. Kyle Irving says at Pangburn, you're getting hacked like the WHO. Fucking hackers. Maybe it's the intellectual dark web fucking with me. Perhaps. Oh well. Either way, however many we have in the room, we're going to have an awesome watch party tonight. I got my big mason jar full of aqua. I may have had a little bit of Monster Energy drink before this, so I'm going to be just fired right up. But yes, engage in the chat. Tonight, guys, you know what? I just decided, since it looks like we're going to have a big show, I am going to give away 3 books. 3 books tonight. And am I going to give them away in form of the actual book? You know what we'll do? I'm going to give 3 books away to 3 different winners. And the way we're going to do it is I will send the total value in Amazon gift card to the winner, the 3 winners tonight, and then you can buy. Hopefully, you'll buy an intellectual book of some kind, an interesting book, and then share it with us. Send us a photo to Pangburn so we can post it. And yeah, so I'll give away 3 books tonight, and I hope you guys subscribe and keep coming back to the page. And I really appreciate that so many of you, it looks like, have shown up today. La Silver Surfer says, I just followed Pangburn on Twitter. Yeah, if you guys want to follow me on Twitter, please do. That's where all my haters hang out, at the Pangburn on Twitter. That's where I like to do my trolling. You can follow me on Facebook. You'll be able to find me. type Pangburn. You'll find our regular Pangburn page, but you'll also find my fan page or whatever you call it. I have opened up my personal page to some fans as well. So if you guys want to send me an invite on Facebook, you should be able to find my personal page. Yeah, do that. I'm on Instagram now at the Pangburn, a brand new Instagram account. Oh, and if you guys are interested at all in my passion for music, I'm going to give you guys the link to my new music channel. And so far, the internet connection seems great, but every time I say that, it fucks up. And I don't know why. Trying to get that sorted out. So please bear with us if we do have a little bit of a glitch. Thinking Sapien, welcome, welcome. Aerocard the Immortal. We have a lot of the regulars back in the chat. There's the link to my new music channel. Please subscribe if you like music. I will cover any of the songs you guys like. We got a lot of the regulars in the room tonight. This is great. Ferdy Ernest, welcome, welcome. Some new blood, Bone Thruster, FPV. Where's Ballsack? Okay, now I'm gonna close. I think I'm gonna close down Twitter. I am live. YouTube.com/Pangburn. One more post to get some more people. Okay, I did Instagram, did all that. I think we're good, guys. Kevin Renfro says, nice to meet you, first-time listener. Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for showing up. First-timers, welcome for the first time. Welcome to Pangburn, where being a crybaby does not improve the strength of your argument. That's one of the new slogans I went with when you come to the channel. He's shaving his ball sack. Yeah, I think he is. Okay, we got 15 minutes still, and then we're going to get going. We're getting right into the meat of it between Matt and Jordan here. We're about to see some fireworks fly. Oh, and for those of you who don't know what these watch parties are, we are watching the event that I produced back in 2018 between Matt and Jordan, and I'm doing some analysis. If any of you have any like behind the scenes questions you want to ask me or anything like that, please do. Okay, it looks like we're seeing a correction in the numbers here in the viewers, I think. But yeah, if you have any questions for me about anything to do with this event, producing this event, or anything, just put it in the comment section. These watch parties are about analyzing the conversation along with asking me any questions you have about the whole process. So, the unknown AR says, so explain what you will do, like an analysis. Yeah, we're doing the analysis together. So I'll read your guys' comments, and I will be offering some commentary, but we're essentially just watching this together. Marie Parker says, maybe some don't like pressing the like button until after your self-program. Thank you for all you do, Travis from Ontario, Canada. Thank you very much, Mary or Marie. Thank you for showing up today. Jason Noble, welcome back to the room. Welcome back to the watch parties. Got about 10 minutes, guys. Thinking Sapien says, at Pangburn, your music is badass. I listen to you while shopping for food, wearing my air-powered respirator, and it put me at ease. Oh, thanks a lot, man. Really appreciate that. Michael Condon says, is this an atheist community? No, it's just a community of people who are interested in having conversations about the issues that mean the most to humanity. And I am a skeptic and a centrist. I have no political affiliation. I have no leanings whatsoever. I just analyze ideas and arguments based on their logical merits and their and through my skeptical engine. Um, yeah. Carol Lauderback says that is the guy who ate Matt Dillahunty. Throwing daggers already from Carol. Oh, this is great. Okay. I will double check Twitter. Unless someone shared my live stream post that I didn't even realize. Like maybe Jordan did somewhere. I have to send Jordan an email. Yeah, make sure you guys are following me on social media. Um, oh yeah, yeah. So that is true with a lot of people on handheld devices. They can't like the live stream apparently until the live stream's over. So I would expect the chat to be more busy though if we have this many, but a lot of people don't engage in the chat. That's true. Aaron B says at Pangburn, are you still going after Shapiro? Yes, I am, and I went after Ben Shapiro today on Twitter, um, just to ping him on the ideological war I've waged against him. For those of you who don't know, I have waged ideological war against Ben Shapiro, and you can read more about that. I'm going to post the article here. Ben Shapiro likes baby penis cutting, baby dick slicing. He likes it. It's part of his religious practice, and he likes all of his religious practices. So you can go here, www.thewarofideas.org, to you can see my war terms that I've laid out for Ben Shapiro, and I like Ben Shapiro, by the way. I think he's a really good thinker in general. Him and I will butt heads on essentially everything to do with religiosity and God belief and God-based doctrine. And I think he has this very lackadaisical, like, it should be up to the parents. Don't take away my right to be able to unnecessarily remove the most erogenous part of my little baby's penis when it's born. It's like the rest of the world doesn't do this. Only 29% of the males on this planet are cut at birth. So we need to stop doing this. There's no reason to do it. Anyone who cites any kind of like study that they think demonstrates that it's cleaner and all this other stuff, all of that has been debunked. It all has to do with the hygiene of the individual. So hygiene is everything when it comes to this. Kyle Irving says, I like Shapiro, but Pangburn, you are hilarious. Piladen says, LOL, Shapiro is not a good thinker. Uh, it, like, point out some of the holes in his logic, because he's generally a good skeptic and good logician. But it all goes out the window when he starts talking about religious woo and crap. Yeah, but it's true. Piladen, you qualify that by saying he doesn't see his own bias. On this particular topic, on the circumcision issue, facts don't care about your feelings. Ben Shapiro shouldn't be allowed to say that from an ideological war standpoint or a war of ideas standpoint while he's holding this position on, let me keep my baby dick slicing alive. Like he can't. Like that is in complete contradiction of his famous slogan. Facts don't care about your feelings. But yeah, but the thing about this, guys, is the important thing to note here is that just because you hate or you think it's just such a bad idea one thinker has, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't stick around to hear more ideas from that person. You don't throw them in the hate category and never listen to them again. You might miss out on some really good ideas. It's like with Jordan Peterson. It's like Jordan Peterson, a lot of people don't like him for some of the things he has said about women. Like they would be happier if they were mothers in the home, and he's making a general statement. I disagree with that. I think that's a really poor generalization, actually, and I don't think the data and stats ring that out true, or at least that hasn't been demonstrated yet. So, but don't just throw Jordan Peterson out the window. What about his self-authoring suite? What about all the great stuff he's done for mental health education and the mechanism of self-authoring that he has really popularized that has helped millions of people? Thinking Sapien says, I've seen the smear campaign against you. You are outstanding with how you present yourself and not allowing them to bully you with their bullshit. Your character speaks for itself. Yeah, you know what? When a lot of, there's always going to be hate out there, but, the hate is, it's fuel, right? It's good. It's good. Use it. Engage with it. Engage with haters. And there's a difference between strong criticism, which I think is great, but then there's a different way to fight defamation and things like that, and lying. So, Juka70 says, I just got here. Sorry, didn't know it started earlier. We haven't started yet, guys. For anyone that's getting here right now, we're going to start in about 4 minutes. I don't know if these numbers are correct. Anyone who's just getting here, it says we have like 3,000 people in the room, but it keeps going up and down, so it's got to be accurate to some degree. But who knows how many people are actually here right now? But if you can hit that like button, please do. Aerocard the Immortal says, at Pangburn, I want a wrench. Okay, you're asking. I'm not going to add a moderator for now, but if I do, you'll be near the top of the list there, Immortal. All right, I am going to shut down this. Going to shut down Facebook, shut down Instagram, shut down the warofideas.org. Again, you guys, if you want to check out my war terms for Ben Shapiro, also go over to Ben Shapiro's pages, post my war terms to him. This is all, the War of Ideas is supposed to be fun. And it should be intense, because the War of Ideas means a lot to humanity, especially the ideological battles that directly affect the well-being of people and babies and things like this. So this one is an important battle for sure, and that's why I declared ideological war on Ben Shapiro. Thinking Sapien says, at Pangburn, thanks. You inspire art and science. You bet. Cullen Roche says, your favorite Christopher Hitchens fanatic is back. Cheers to the Hitch. Honestly. We got it up to 40 likes, guys. Smash that like button. Smash that like button. But I have some interesting things planned to get more attention from Ben Shapiro, to get him to deal with this issue of baby dick slicing. Okay, we are 2 minutes away. 2 minutes. Begin the countdown. Or are we going to start with something epic? Oh, maybe I'll do that. Okay, I'm going to open this window. We're going to go to YouTube.com. Let's go with... We'll play my War of Ideas track. This is one of the compositions I recently did. All right. Let's get ready for war. Andrew T. Welcome to Andrew T. Let's give a shout out to Andrew T and Keith Connolly. They are the moderators in the chat for tonight. Longtime Pangburn listeners. You guys, I forgot I had to crank up. I forgot I had to crank it up for the Peterson and Dillahunty talk. All right, guys, that was a piece I composed. Sorry about blaring your guys' ears. I forgot I had to crank up the desktop volume for the stream. But let's get into the action. Juka70 says, sounds like a church organ. I did use a church organ specifically for that. So I was just saying... Let's give a shout out to Andrew T. and Keith Connolly, who are our moderators tonight that are going to keep the chat open up and streaming. If we get any trolls in here, they will take care of that. All right, let's go. Part 2, Jordan Peterson versus Matt Dillahunty. One of my favorite events I've ever produced in my life. This one was huge. It's got 1.4 million views. That is great for a conversation like this. So let's go.
You made the case that part of the reason that we assume beings is because there's a being that seems lacking in death. And that was associated, I had asked the question about why people attribute their mystical experiences to supernatural beings. So we kind of went off on a little bit of a tangent there, but it was related. So we could say, well, your idea is something like people personify the soul for obvious reasons, and they also have a hyperactive agency detector, and so it's the combination of whatever mechanisms that produce that allow them to attribute supernatural personification to the source of mystical experiences. It's something like that. Yeah, okay. So let me ask you something. We'll get back to that, maybe.
That's fine.
Let me ask you something about consciousness. You tell me what you think about this, okay? All right, so this is how it looks to me. I mean, there's lots of ways of thinking about how people...
So Jordan's going to go into consciousness. Just FYI, guys, I have cranked it up on my end. This is a very quiet... video when it was uploaded. So yeah, just bear with the volume.
Interact with the world. But I think this is how we treat ourselves and other people as we see them acting in the world. And so I would say it's indicative of our deepest belief, because I think belief is associated with action. So the way consciousness appears to me is that it's a faculty, let's say, that confronts possibility. We'd call that possibility, well, sometimes possibility, sometimes we call it potential, like your potential. Sometimes we call it the future. So I don't see us as driven deterministically like clocks, which is apparently, I think, although I've been accused of misunderstanding Sam Harris before, but I think that's the argument that he makes. I see us instead as agents confronting a landscape of possibility. And that what consciousness does is enable us to shape that possibility into actuality. And we do that with whatever it is that allows us to make decisions. I think that our legal system is basically predicated on the idea that that's true. I think that if you treat yourself that way, that works. I think if you treat other people as if that's their basic characteristic and perhaps their value, that you get along with them, And I think that if you organize your society on that presupposition, it appears.
I'm just going to turn on the Spanish subtitles here, guys. I did promise one of our listeners that we would turn it on. Yeah, and thanks to all of everyone's support who supported this. We do have Arabic and Spanish subtitles on this video. It's really helped a lot.
To be functional. So what do you think about the idea of consciousness as confronting a landscape of possibility or potential? Is there something?
So I don't know that I have that much of an issue with anything in particular that you've said. There's a number of different ways to frame these things so that people can have a better grasp on it. One of the things I know people struggle with is, and we may have to get back to this in a minute, I don't necessarily want to dig in on it just a second, but I would love to talk about it. This idea that absent a God, there's no moral authority. This is a fear that many people have. And when you're talking about viewing consciousness as the way you describe consciousness is what I would probably call our agency.
Okay.
And while I don't think that we have libertarian free will, I'm on record as being a compatibilist along with Dan Dennett. But I also had another discussion recently, so I'm going to clarify it because of that discussion.
So Jordan has started this off by making a huge claim here, right? That consciousness is this idea where we approach all of these possibilities ahead of us that we can pursue. The difference is like we have to demonstrate that we're in control of pursuing those things. My argument from the pleasure drive perspective in my new book is that there's no evidence that we have control of any of these biological faculties, that the nervous system and the chemistry in our body are just acting on physics and we're not willing anything, right? So that seems to me what we know from neurology and everything that we know about our own biology is that like our thoughts are happening to us. We're not dictating our thoughts. Like if you try to sit there and think about what your next thought is going to be, you can't do it. And Sam Harris gives many good examples of this. So I think if anyone's going to demonstrate that we have actual control over these faculties, that would be huge if someone could demonstrate that, but that has not been demonstrated.
I'm fine with the idea that we have a will, that we have desires, that we are an agent that is also capable of self-reflection to see what are the consequences of my action moving forward. To me, it does not matter if that is ultimately deterministic, like clockwork, or if there was something that could trump determinism. Oh, I shouldn't have said Trump. I'm so sorry. If there was something that could actually overcome the determinism.
All right, we already have some questions coming into the chat. Andre Schmilo says, why are we punishing rapists? They have no free will. We can still hold people responsible for their actions because we have to live as though we do have free will. Even though we've discovered that we do not, as far as I can tell, that's what the evidence has demonstrated. Everything from biology to the Big Bang and physics. It's like things have fallen into place the only way they could have. We need to act as though we do have free will. And that includes setting up laws based on moral systems of how we think human beings ought to behave and ought to be. Even though when you boil it down to the determinism that is, you can say that people are just born into these shitty circumstances and they just have only one way of playing out, including murderers and rapists. And I think I think it's just a combination of the hardware we're born with mixed with environment. And your environment is essentially predetermined and dictated as well, because everything that moves in and out of your environment has gone through the same birthing process as you. So it's like you can't get away from determinism. You can't.
View. That doesn't change to me the fact that you would be the agent responsible for your actions. Now, when my lawnmower acts up, I will sometimes anthropomorphically, cuss it out.
Yeah, it's hard to get rid of those vestiges of religious behavior.
But yeah, it is. Touche. I mean, although at least I got rid of them.
I haven't seen you interact with your lawnmower yet.
But at the end, I recognize that the lawnmower is not a thinking agent, that is not making decisions. And so that difference between there is where I would inject the sort of ideas about moral responsibility. Sam Harris and I had an argument in Chicago about free will, and I was pointing out that he could walk over and...
The Owlcast says, you guys are mixing up acting upon your thoughts and just having them. You can have bad thoughts as long as you don't act upon them. Owl, the thing is that what I am saying is that it hasn't been demonstrated that we have the ability to choose what we act upon in any real sense. The choice is already made by our pleasure drive. Why do you think there is a choice on what you act on and what you don't? Because you feel that way? That has to be demonstrated.
Step off the end of the stage, or I could pick him up and carry him and drop him off the stage, and at the end the effect would essentially be the same. But the conflict between those two is everything that I describe as will, whether you want to call it free or not. I think that's what we value. That's what we care about. I would be responsible for that action. I would be acting in opposition to what the other agent wanted. And I don't know that you have to...
And there would be something hypothetically wrong about that.
Yes.
Okay, good. So that's close.
We can get to the morality thing, because I think the next question I had, unless you wanted to follow up on that, is a lot of, like I was saying earlier, it seems that you're talking a lot about...
Guys, remember to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate it.
You haven't addressed the issue, and I'm not going to push back on it because I want to move on to some other stuff.
I'm getting there.
Of whether or not there is good reason to believe there actually is a God, as opposed to whether there are good reasons for people to believe that there actually is a God. Dan Dennett describes, there are people who believe, and then there are people who believe in belief, that there's value. And from what you said here and in some other comments, which I'm not going to saddle you with, I'm curious. Irrespective of whether there's a God, what is it that you fear we would...
Herd of Sheep S says, Pangburn, humans can conceive of the future, sure, okay, which doesn't exist, correct? I mean, it metaphorically exists, but yes, I know what you mean. Couldn't free will exist like how the future exists as an idea? Yeah, sure, free will definitely exists as an idea, and we live in that idea. We have to. If we step outside and try to live like, body, take me where you will, you're going to find yourself dying a depression death very, very quickly. It's just there seems to be almost a necessity for at least social species to have this idea that we are in control of our fates or our future. And that seems to be a very pleasurable pursuit ideologically for us to be reminding ourselves of that, and to even say it in the courtroom and say it everywhere. It's like, you are in control of your life. And like, yeah, it's like, you get a Bible, you get a Bible. So obviously this is a pleasurable pursuit, or we wouldn't be doing it. But I agree with you. It exists in the same way that any kind of ideological concept like future exists.
Lose if people stopped believing that there was a God, or believing there was value in believing.
We'd lose the metaphoric substrate of our ethos, and we'd be lost.
And so I'm
I think Nietzsche
an
was
uneducated.
right about that.
So I really want to know, and I'm not being a dick. I want to know what you mean by metaphorical substrate, because saying we're going to lose it. So there's the idea. When I ask, what do you think we're going to lose? There's two things. One is there's something that you and I would both agree we should try to keep.
Yeah.
And there are other things that you and I might disagree on whether or not we should keep it. Because when people say to me, oh, if we go down the road with Dostoevsky, that, if there is no God, everything's permissible. First of all, I don't think that's remotely true, because I have...
He makes a pretty vicious case for it, beyond good and evil.
And despite the fact that it sounds monumentally arrogant, I think I can demolish that case in about 2 minutes with his secular morality lecture. Well,
I think the first part of that statement is right, but not the second one.
I love it when these guys start slinging arrows
But the thing
at
is,
each other.
there would be two categories of things that...
And by the way, I do want to get these guys in the same room again one day. Of course, when Jordan's feeling better and times are different. I think it's going to be a long time before the live event interest grows back after the COVID-19 outbreak.
That you and others might be fearful we would lose. Some of which I might agree we should definitely not lose these things.
Yep.
Others I might be absolutely fine with losing.
Kyle Irving says, Pangburn, what do you mean by free will? An individual's will to dictate anything. To dictate anything, including our thinking, our thoughts, why I just went like this with my hand, why I just looked down instead of over there, 5 degrees, like everything. Chemical processes in our neurology, neurological firings, all of our biology. This is what's going on is just our biology interacting with the environment. That's what I believe is happening.
Like it that it's wrong to throw Sam Harris off a stage.
Yeah. I don't plan on doing that. But
well, we
it
both
did
agreed
cross
that
my mind at one point.
We both agreed that that was probably wrong.
Yes.
So, okay, so that's good.
Probably.
Yeah.
See, I'm a situational ethicist, and so there might be situations. If the stage were on fire, throwing Sam off would be the best thing I could do for him. So what do you think? What do you think we're likely to lose? What bothers you? And when you say metaphorical substrate, I'm probably just monumentally ignorant, but I really...
So last time I exchanged notes with Jordan was a couple months ago, and he seemed to be in good spirits and just getting through feeling better, or getting to a point where he's feeling better. And Jordan and I struggle a lot with a lot of the same neurological disorders, chemical imbalance, leading to severe depression, and then the byproducts of that are really high levels of anxiety and panic, and all these terrible things that essentially destroy you. So, last I heard from Jordan, he's hanging in there.
I don't think I have a good understanding of what you mean.
Well, there's levels of thought. I mean, every thought structure, let's say, every belief structure is multi-leveled, like a piece of music. And there's the word in a phrase, and then there's the phrase, and then there's the sentence, and then there's the paragraph, and then there's the sequence of paragraphs within which the paragraphs are uttered, and then there's a broader context of interpretation within which all of that is interpreted. And then there's our emotional and motivational similarity. And then there's our embodiment in the world. And all of those things are operative at all times when we're understanding one another. And as you move outside the realm of the linguistic, like the paragraph level, let's say, into the realm of the emotional and motivational and embodied, you also move into the metaphorical. And the metaphorical is structured in a particular way. And this is quite well documented, by the way. I mean, if you look at how the hemispheres interact, so the left hemisphere, broadly speaking, and I'm not oversimplifying this except that we don't have much time, is linguistic. But the linguistic utterances are understood in the context provided more by the right hemisphere, which is nonverbal, and which attends to things like the music of language. And so at the bottom of a linguistic structure, there's something that's extra-linguistic. And it tends to take form in metaphor and narrative and drama and that sort of thing. And the religious landscape is the narrative, metaphor, drama landscape. And if you disrupt it, then you blow apart the widest possible context within which the specific utterances are rendered comprehensible.
No, you don't. So here's a failure in Jordan's thinking here. You don't blow it apart and it's like vastly wide open for anything to come in and affect it in a negative or positive way. There are many things that we have filling that area. The story our great grandmother told us, filling that narrative, that metaphorical substrate as Jordan calls it. A piece of music that we heard that we always go to feel at ease psychologically. If that is blown apart, it's not like there are millions upon millions of different things to pull from and that are filled in there. And sure, like if someone lives a religiously convictious, I don't know if that's a word, but I'm going to create it, convictious life, or convicted, then they're going to obviously feel some of those holes when they drop some of those narratives. But it's not like you can't get that from other avenues, right? I get so much of mine from music and from Shakespeare and from just theater in general. So I agree that someone who doesn't have things at that foundation are going to find themselves lacking in their life for sure. Possibly even searching for, I guess, quote unquote, meaning. But I think this is where Jordan and I disagree a lot in that if you listen to my podcast with Jordan, I keep driving at, I think art in general, and I include religion in that, art in general is what Jordan should be talking about as that foundation, not a specific narrative like the Bible. He should just be talking about art in general. And then we have to apply our own moral code or moral foundation to those various teachings and narratives. Yeah. Let's see what we got going in the chat. Sean Kelly, welcome, says, Pangburn, chemical reactions, sure. But the fact that they are inside our bodies makes them part of us. Sure, yep. If you use self in the non-abstract sense, then it seems easy to say my body is determining. Yeah, it is easy because physics, you're not going to break the laws of physics, right? They can't be broken as far as we know. And chemistry is operating on the same laws of physics as everything else is. So it seems to be that the reactions outside of something being seemingly random and based on strictly probabilities, then we're going to have the same outcome every time you run it because the physics only works a certain way, right? Herd of Sheep S says, at Pangburn, what about the metaphorical substrates that aren't connected to our immediate society? If the culture becomes immoral, then wouldn't someone consuming that culture be immoral? Of course, because morality is subjective. If the moral foundations have been shooken up by a new narrative to suggest that, yeah, sure, it's fine for a father to have sex with his infant children. And in that society, it's just been accepted that, yeah, this is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. The children grow up with the idea that having sex with their adult parent is fine, and there's no. But obviously, we know from studying the the psychological detriments to children and how it affects their future sex life and all these other terrible things that come of this, that we ought not to be doing this, and we've built scientific models to demonstrate that. So, and this is where Sam Harris comes into play, because Sam Harris created the moral landscape idea based on based on well-being, maximizing well-being as the governing foundation for how we should be viewing morality. So when we're talking about morality, if we just say, okay, essentially when we're talking about morality, we're talking about well-being. If we grant that, And there are some presuppositions there, and that's fine, because someone will say, well, then you're presupposing that being well is a good thing. Well, as a general rule, every human being wishes to be well, as a general rule. Obviously, you're going to find anecdotes where, but you know, and Matt ends up talking about this, but, you know, wellness is preferable to sickness. Just general principles like that we have to, that are subjective in a sense, but they're generally true about each individual human's experience. And then you build the moral foundation from there up. So you maximize everyone's well-being, and everyone is equal in that regard.
Okay, so I followed all that, shockingly. Anytime you were talking about signs and hemispheres and all this other stuff. So when you're talking about the broader context, if we lose belief in a God, we lose that metaphorical substrate that is the broader context in which we evaluate these narratives.
Yeah, that really grinds them into our bodies, that makes them things we believe rather than just think.
Sure, but
see, you didn't
what
just
is it about
think,
the
you
narratives?
didn't just think that it was wrong to throw Sam off the stage.
God, Sam's going to be pissed when he hears it.
Yeah. Well, that's okay.
Well,
So by the way, this is right before I got Sam and Jordan together for the 4 discussions. So they hadn't even met yet.
See, there's a difference between thinking something and believing it, because to believe it, it has to be thought incarnated in some sense. It has to be embodied.
When I talk about it, belief is this state of being convinced that a proposition is true or likely true. It's everything that I try to do, I tend to view in the form of.
Sean Kelly says determinism is an overreach in that it presupposes 100% certainty or the possibility thereof. No, there's no 100% certainty involved in anything. If anyone's going to play that game, they obviously have to beat the matrix hypothesis, which is impossible, or it seems to be. So no 100% certainty. It's to ignore the lack of lower limit in scale or an upper limit in symbolic understanding. No, it's really not overlooking any of that, and it's not saying that there isn't significance there, but that is all part of the environment which we interact with. All of that. So it's all part of it.
Of propositional reasoning. So when we talk about the narrative.
Yeah, that's a problem, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah, well, you can't reduce the world to a set of propositions.
Why not?
Oh, look.
Show me something that is
No problem.
This is where Jordan's head starts getting red.
in the world that is not a proposition.
Like
you
an
cannot
explicit,
put in
statable proposition?
something that is demonstrably true that I could not put in a proposition.
Oh, that's easy.
Okay.
Sure you want to go there?
I'm not afraid of anything.
Okay. Okay.
If I'm wrong, I want to know I'm wrong. But
Yeah.
I'm trying to, for years I had this thing going where people would say, oh, and this is kind of what we're getting at from a different angle. I would say,
Jordan, you really want to go there with me? I'm not afraid of anything.
they would be afraid of what we would lose if we lost religion.
Couple
and
dorks.
I basically said, demonstrate to me any benefit.
Oh, you'd lose art and poetry and drama and narrative and story.
Are there no godless artists and poets?
Well, there are artists and poets who think they're godless.
Uh-oh. Here we go. So this is where we start getting at the root of where these guys are going to disagree. So hold on to your butts. Guys, please make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Would love to have you. We do live shows like this weekly. And check out the rest of our videos on this channel. We got lots going on, lots of long-form live discussions like this, shorter clips. Read the comment sections; they're really interesting. And yeah, remember to hit the like button on this stream. We're up to 60 likes almost, and I know a lot of you can't hit it until after the video's over. But yeah, and thank you guys so much for engaging in the chat. Really appreciate it.
So we might have crossed over into a problem area because
no doubt.
I can't draw for crap, although I do draw during the show. But one of the individuals who came to the show the other night handed me something that she had spent a great deal of time drawing. She's a wonderful artist. I'm very grateful to get it. And, while I pretend to read minds on stage, I constantly acknowledge that I can't actually read minds. So I can't tell you whether or not she actually believes in a God. But
For those of you who don't know, Matt is also a magician, and this was in the middle of his Magic and Skepticism tour, which I produced.
I can tell you that I actually don't believe in a God, and I could write
But you act
poetry.
like you do.
Huh?
But you act like you do. That's why you didn't
I
want to throw
act
poor
like-
Sam off the stage.
No, now you're making a claim. Okay, so I'm telling you I don't believe there's a God. And
Yeah.
your response to that is, I really do, because I have a moral sense. But my moral sense is utterly without any appeal to a God,
Explicitly.
or implicitly.
Maybe.
The f-
That's not so obvious.
okay, it's really
See,
it's,
because
it's
you
easy.
regard Sam Harris as an implicitly valuable entity. Because otherwise you'd just throw him off the stage. And then the question is, well, just exactly why is he an implicitly valuable entity?
I don't
What's your
think he's-
metaphysics of that?
I don't think he's implicitly valuable in the sense, in the. I don't think he's implicitly valuable in the sense that the universe has implied that there's something explicit about it. For me, morality is far simpler than something.
Javis123111 says, Jordan literally thinks he can read Matt's mind. Why does that make me laugh so hard? It kind of does seem that way through some of this.
Wait, you
Make it
sounded
out to me.
doubtful about that. You know that, like
Maybe
you've been
you're the
sounding-
mind reader.
you've been- well, maybe.
Because you've already suggested that despite me sitting here and having talked about this for decades, that I don't believe in God, that I actually do because I have a moral code. But my moral code, which I've
Well, I was
talked
more
about,
specific. I said it was because you didn't want to throw Sam off the stage. It
yes,
wasn't
but
just
you
that
didn't.
had a
You didn't
moral
remote.
code.
You
This
didn't
is
even
so
attempt
hilarious
to ask
that
me
they're using
why I
this.
didn't throw Sam
As the analogy.
off the stage. Instead, you went to why do you think Sam has implicit value? Because it
Okay,
seems
so,
that in
okay,
your
I'm-
narrative,
I'm willing to
that's
go
the
there.
only justification.
Well, maybe you were afraid of being punished.
I think no.
Oh,
I think
okay.
you can have a perfectly acceptable foundation for secular morality, even if it fundamentally centers around selfishness. I'd rather not be thrown off the stage. It's in my best interest to encourage that sort of understanding in others, and therefore I will not throw him off the stage. I would rather not have my stuff stolen, and it's in my best interest to encourage others not to do that, so I will not steal stuff, and I will work with others to ensure that the people who steal stuff are punished. It is in a virtually pragmatic moral system.
Why do you think it's not in your best interest to have stuff stolen from you or to be thrown off the stage?
Why is it not in my best interest?
Yeah. No, you don't get to think, oh, that's self-evident. It's like nothing's self-evident to the skeptic. Let's keep that in mind.
Oh. Well, so
Nothing's self-evident to the skeptic. Well, nothing is self-evident at all. We're making billions of calculations per second. Not like those aren't just calculations about nothing. We're doing skeptical calculations, but the act of being skeptical is a different discipline. But Jordan's confusing that he's engaging with skepticism every millisecond that he's alive. His brain's just doing it at a very fast speed, and he doesn't maybe want to call it skepticism, but that is what he engages in.
Because if we're going to get skeptical here, we might as well go all the way to the bottom.
So for Sam and I, the foundations, and we're not the only ones, but I tend to reference Sam.
Jordan does get cynical in this conversation, and it's amusing whenever a thinker does get that way, and every thinker has fallen into it in a live discussion. And this was one of Jordan's, I think a lot of people would agree, one of his more weaker outings. And I think one of the reasons is because he falls into a bit of cynicism.
Just because if I say this, then somebody will say, well, that's exactly what Sam Harris says, except that, I was given this lecture before he wrote his book. But his book is better than my lecture, so read his book. When I talk about this, I'm talking about well-being is the language that Sam uses.
Oh,
I don't.
yeah.
I don't.
Sad.
I don't care whether or not somebody else considers that morality.
Well-being is the word that uses. Sad. Oh,
would
that
think at a
kills
minimum,
me.
would you and I agree that
That whole well-being thing, man, as a basis for a metaphysics, that's just a non-starter.
we're not basing metaphysics on it?
Sam is.
No, he's not.
Yes, he is, because he's out to
Well,
maximize well-being.
You can take it up with Sam.
Well, okay, sorry.
it's not
You think I'm wrong about that claim? That's what I understood
I
from
don't think
reading
Sam's
him.
saying anything metaphysical about it. I
has
think
nothing
so.
to
Here's
do
the
with
thing: we are physical beings.
Well, it's his fundamental claim. So it's sort of at the basis of his ethic. And so he says, well, we should work to maximize people's well-being, or at least to more. He does a bit more than that, because he says we should minimize their suffering.
He's not maximize, minimize in this sense of simple consequentialism. Let me do this.
Okay.
We're physical beings in a physical universe, and the laws that dictate how things work in the universe, they are the ultimate arbiters of what is or isn't in our best interest, whether we know it or not. So, for example, so far as I can tell,
So I do agree that Jordan is playing and he's being playful and doing a bit of trolling. But I think he also does feel some of this, and he's showing some of his frustration and some cynicism with the, the hard-nosed skeptic, atheist position, because Jordan does think that it's a way oversimplification of and not giving due seriousness to the importance of some kind of religious ethic, and Jordan would say specifically Christian ethic, and I just think that hasn't been demonstrated, but I think he definitely really does feel that for sure.
Then why do you need free will?
I don't think
Why
we
do you
need
believe
free
in
will.
it then?
I-
Why do you attribute agency to things if the laws of the
Can I
universe can
get to that one point?
Well, yeah, but there was a contradiction
Because
that was confusing me.
free will isn't relevant to this.
It is if the laws of the universe are what are dictating what's good for us.
No, because if you chop off my head, that is clearly not good for me. And it doesn't matter whether it was an act of free will or if it was my lawnmower.
It's clearly not good for you because you think you're valuable and worth preserving.
Yes.
Okay, that's the issue. Why do you think you're valuable and worth preserving?
Because I am the descendants of people who thought they were valuable and worth preserving, and the ones who didn't think that have killed themselves. But this is not a statement about... This is not a statement about intrinsic value.
I don't know. Yes, I think
No,
it is. Okay, but I think it is.
Okay, Bal Diablo says, I agree, Swag. Well-being is so subjective. No, it is not. Not in the sense, you guys, in the sense of Sam Harris's claims about well-being. We're talking about the well-being that we can measure scientifically. Like Matt was trying to give the example of, okay, if we say that when we're talking about morality, we're essentially talking about the well-being of humanity, and how best to maximize it. Okay, so then then we can create models of well-being. We can create models like, for instance, if we have a cup of acid, Sam uses this example, if we have a cup of acid, we can say that drinking that acid would be not in the best interest of my well-being. We can build a scientific model to show that, because it has a great chance of killing me or harming me. And if I'm dead, I can't. I am no longer being. So that's the ultimate blow to my well-being, or it could create a lot of suffering. So we can actually build scientific models to demonstrate the well-being of something, and that is why Sam uses well-being as the foundation, because we can actually come up with objective statements about well-being, and it's not a perfect rule. This is a general moral model, and yes, it is subjective. Morality is subjective. Even if someone claims, like, the only way it would be objective if there was a higher power that was the all-knowing, all-everything about what is objectively good, if it came like that. But that's never been demonstrated.
Okay. The reason that we talk about this in terms of well-being is because irrespective of whether or not I care about well-being, there are facts about well-being.
Sure, let's hear them, man. Line those suckers up.
Yeah.
If you chop off my head, it's in contradiction to my well-being. I mean, but the point
No, I wasn't willing to grant that, actually.
Okay.
I'm saying that's a metaphysical presupposition. You're just saying I have to accept that.
No, I'm not telling you
because
at all what to accept.
Sure you are. You're saying that your death would be
I'm
wrong.
trying to explain what my position is.
Okay, but you said that wouldn't be in accordance with your well-being. Okay, that's a metaphysical statement or philosophical statement. It's not an obvious fact.
That
That's not
chopping
a
off somebody's
fact.
head is contrary to their well-being.
It depends on how you define well-being.
Remember to smash that like button, guys. I really appreciate it. And make sure you are subscribed. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, but it matters.
But if you define well-being as this glass of water, we're no longer talking about the same thing.
Well, you can define well-being. That's fine. That's what I'm waiting for.
This is what I'm... Well,
You can't do it. You can't define well-being. It's
well then
very,
why
very
should I try? I
difficult.
certainly can't do it if you keep telling me I can't do it.
Okay, sorry. Okay, I'll back off. There's a... Go ahead. I'm all ears.
So, the primary objection to mine and Sam's position that keeps coming back is, why should anybody care about well-being? And we both will acknowledge that this is, in fact, a subjective preference. There are people who are going to care about well-being, there are people who aren't. The second objection is that well-being is not clearly defined. Both of us have acknowledged this. It's not as if we're saying we have all the answers to how to go about living a better life. We're just saying that however we're going to define well-being, which is, I say you can start with a couple of foundations. You could start with death is preferable to life, but you don't get very far that way. And
Stop suffering.
Well, no, I'm saying you could start with death is preferable to life, but you don't get very far that way because those
You
people-
do. You stop suffering. You just die.
Yes,
Right, so you can start with the presupposition.
except that when you're dead, you're not being, so there's no well-being.
No, well, that's...
If it's
So the reason why that choked up Jordan there a bit is because even though Matt hasn't gone there yet, there's I mean, he's kind of gone there, but they didn't focus there for too long. There are ways to demonstrate scientifically, build scientific models when you get closer to no longer being, and then you on the other scale you can get to the I guess the well-being utopia that is the ultimate top goal.
That's not necessarily the
if
case.
we're looking
because you
for the
could make
best
it-
things about our life, you
Yeah.
can't say death is better.
Yeah, you can.
Well,
People
I
do
know
all
that
the
you can
time.
say it.
People do all the time. They do. No, look.
They can
I'm
express
not
their
being flippant
preference,
about
but their
this.
preference can be wrong. How can it possibly be better for your life if you're dead?
What if you, are a terminal burn victim with cancer?
So this is the point that I was getting to. I am perfectly fine with the idea that for certain instances, there may be occasions that death is preferable to an individual over life. But when we're speaking in broader terms, if we're talking about let's create the best society we can, let's create the best quality of life we can for people, death is not that across the board. That doesn't mean that there aren't individual exceptions. So the foundations that I started with, you could start with death is better than life, but blah, blah, blah. If you start with life is generally preferable to death, health is generally preferable to sickness, happiness is generally preferable to sadness, none of these are absolute locked in stone rules. From those things,
Okay, so if you start with them.
yes, if you
So
start...
you're not skeptical about those claims?
Wow.
Well, I'm asking.
I came out and said that I wasn't going to be trying to straw man you left and right. And now every time I say something, you're like, oh, so you're not skeptical about that.
Well, I'm trying to
I haven't
No,
gotten to
sorry. I'm not trying to attack you. I'm trying to understand where your argument begins.
Well, it seems odd that you would come out with, so you're not skeptical about that.
Well, that's a
While
question.
I'm on my skepticism tour, while I'm in mid-sentence to describe that these are the general foundations that you start with.
Okay, that's what I
And-
was asking. Those are, okay, so, but what you're saying, if you're saying, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm
Okay.
not trying to be difficult. You're saying that those are your starting positions. Those are the things that you accept.
I'm saying they
on
can be.
faith.
No.
Oh, you have a rationale for them.
Yes.
Let's hear it.
You already have. Life is generally preferable to death because we're talking about our life, and death is generally not in the interest of the living. It can be on exception. This is the point that I was getting to. So you could start with those foundations. You could start with any three that you found. You could pick three arbitrary foundations. And the one aspect that makes a secular moral system distinct from religious pronouncements and divine command theory and those sorts of things is that the secular moral system has as its goal the object of getting better at getting better, which means if you find out that one of your foundations is wrong or in conflict with something else, you can now change that. You could start with death is preferable to life, and then when you find out that it's not working that well, you change that foundation. I think that these foundations, based on the evidence of how people tend to live their lives and what they care about, are a good set of three. There could be better ones that somebody come up with. I'm open to revision on any of these at any time. But to say that I'm not skeptical about them is exactly the opposite of what I am. Because skepticism is about, I'm not going to accept something as true without good reason, and it's about being open to revision should there be evidence. If you and I agree that we care about a good life isn't very well defined. And we may have different ideas about what good life is. But if we could actually just sit here and take notes, I think that we'd come across maybe a handful of things that we would agree would make for a good life. If we take those and compare them to the foundations of a secular moral system like what I'm describing, we can determine, non-subjectively, whether or not the list we've come up with are consistently approachable from that foundation. And we can do that for religious morality as well.
Andre Shumilo says, kill all criminals equals better society, ? Would that be objectively moral? No. If we're talking about well-being, maximizing well-being for everyone, killing those criminals does not maximize the well-being for those criminals. Everyone is included. So when you have situations like, okay, we have to separate these people from society because they're a harm from society. Okay, there is a net positive in the well-being sphere there for the people who potentially could cause harm and the people who they're not going to be able to cause harm to anymore. So it's also about maximizing the well-being and the possibility for people to be rehabilitated. Like, all of that comes into consideration when you're trying to apply this model of maximizing well-being to everyone. It includes the people who don't have anything, or the people who were born into psychopathy or difficult psychological disorders that lead them to do terrorist action and things like this. You don't. The rule doesn't go out the window for them. It's still gets applied to them. This is the moral contract thing that when we have a new baby born into society, we would consider it crimes against humanity if, when that baby's born and it's a born healthy baby like this, if we were to start cutting their throats, we would consider that a crime against humanity, right? If we found out that this was happening.
The analogy that I've used in the past is, for example, a game of chess. There's nothing about the universe that requires that we care about chess or care about the rules of chess. The rules of chess are arbitrary. Somebody made them up. We changed them. We added en passant. We added castling. We added things like that. We have the rules of chess. We don't always know what the best move is. But if the goal of the game is to win, or at a...
You guys, there seems to be some confusion of the difference between science and philosophy. Philosophy deals with what ought to be. Science deals with what is. Often there will be crosses between them because what is will often dictate what we think ought to be the best foot forward based on what is, or even vice versa. When we're deciding what scientific pursuits we ought to pursue, things like that. So remember, philosophy, what ought to be; science, what is.
Minimum, not lose. Then we can analyze the moves with respect to the consequences and with respect to the goal of winning, and determine which moves are better and which moves are worse. That is what a secular moral system does, because it allows revision. whereas religious systems don't allow for revision. There's not a Bible 3.0. There's not a Quran 2.0. There's no new revelation from God to say, hey, I said all this stuff about slavery, now I'm opposed to it. Or, hey, I was really down on homosexuals, but now I'm okay with it. Hey, when I said that here's what caused diseases, or that you were unclean and shouldn't enter the temple, all those things are actually wrong. The germ theory of disease is right. And none of that's come out.
Well, there is kind of a Bible 2.0. That was the New Testament, right?
Well,
so that's not exactly right.
That is the update for the Christians,
yeah.
Except that it's worse than the first one.
Well, that's not exactly the point. The point is there was an update. So,
well,
okay,
the update, it's not like Jesus came along and said, hey, in Exodus 21, where I was saying you could have slaves and beat them, we got that wrong, or you got that wrong. That correction's never given. That thing about, in Leviticus where we point out that women are worth 2/3 of that of a man, we got that wrong. None of that is corrected. In fact, the reason I say it got worse, although I didn't know we were going to go down the biblical route tonight, is that if you look at Jewish tradition, when you're dead, you sleep with your fathers. There's no real clear notion of an afterlife. And then with the introduction of the New Testament, what you get is infinite torture and punishment for finite crimes, which is immoral.
All right, so I don't want to go down that rabbit hole at the moment, although I'd be perfectly happy to do it, if we get there. Well,
because they want us to go to questions here in a minute.
Oh, okay. So I want to address the rule system that you're putting together.
Okay.
Okay, so I was talking to a friend of mine who's an AI engineer. He's a very smart guy, and we've been talking about the foundations of cognition. Mm-hmm. And you know that artificial intelligence systems don't run on rules. Right.
Well, some of them do.
Well,
and certainly they run on an operating system that is full of rules.
That's actually not relevant in this case.
But that's the physical
because they could
foundation.
operate on all sorts of different operating systems.
Well,
but okay, so
but
hang on a second.
There's a foundation. The foundation I'm pointing to is the physical facts of the universe, and that would be roughly consistent with the hardware and the operating system that they're running on. But I'm sorry,
okay,
I interrupted.
No. I mean, that's a reasonable objection too. But look, one of the things that
let's get the likes up to 100, guys. Would really appreciate it. Hit that like button. It'll just take a second. You can do it. Thank you for all of you who are engaging in the chat. There's some really cool stuff. I don't want to interrupt some of the chat that's going on, but make sure you guys are reading the chat as we're going through this, because there's some really awesome discourse happening.
Happened and I think this is one of the problems with the we can generate a rational system of rules that can govern our behavior approach, is that since the 1980s, people have been trying to build rule-based expert systems that can do relatively simple things. Relatively simple. They're not that simple. Like basic medical diagnosis. They don't work. Rule-based systems don't work. You can't get them to operate intelligently, which is why machine learning came about to begin with. Because whatever machine learning is doing and allowing for predictions, it doesn't seem easily decomposable to a set of listable rules and a map of their interactions. The world doesn't seem to work that way. And I would say, back to the metaphysical substrate argument, you laid forward a set of propositions, and the reason I was perhaps inappropriately torturing you about them is because there's a metaphysic under them. There's something that's driving you to put those forward as reasonable. You say, well, they're self-evidently reasonable. See, my question is...
I didn't actually say it, but okay.
Well, it's something...
Yeah, Matt wasn't claiming self-evident. One thing Matt's not going to, which perhaps he should or he should have, is that science, through scientific models, we can demonstrate the well-being of propositions, and we can actually test those things, and whether this results in a positive to one's well-being or a negative.
Like that, because you said, well, reasonable people could agree on these three or something similar. It seems to me that what you're saying is that there is a set of finite axioms that reasonable people could conceivably agree on, from which you could generate a rule-based moral system. Have I got that wrong? I thought that's what you said.
It's curious because I didn't say that, but it's very close to something that I have said in the past, which is, for any given situation, there's a finite set of actions that a person could take. And some set of those actions are better than others with respect to whatever the goal is. If the goal is to continue a decent life or improve the quality of your life, some set of one or more actions that you could take in this instant produces results that are better in ways that we would agree they're better, like throwing Sam off the stage.
Swegofosor Monchakupas says, how would science define well-being? Well, essentially from the health of the individual. So this includes psychological health, ideological health, biological health, essentially health. And we can demonstrate scientifically whether one thing is going to be a net positive for one's well-being from that standard, or a negative, or a net negative.
If we were in that situation,
Must be an unconscious fantasy going on here or something, eh? Because we keep returning to that.
And it's fun. But one of the possible actions of this set of actions would be for me to throw him off the stage. Another possible set of action would be for me to, shield him. It is clear, and you can say that I'm just saying it's self-evident, it is clear that one of those is going to be...
Okay, Herd of Sheep S says, at Pangburn, how is me taking something I want, I think you mean from another, not rational? How would you argue? Well, first of all, in some instances, it would be rational to your own experience. It perhaps may not be moral, but you can rationally justify taking something from another, right? Simple examples of the classic example of your child starving to death, and there's someone else's bread or someone else's milk sitting at their doorstep that they're going to have in the morning because the milkman dropped it off. You take some milk. You're reasonably rationally justified in doing that, but it may not be the most moral thing or even a moral thing to do. But you could probably also make a moral argument as I did it and it fit within my maximizing well-being morale because my infant was on the brink of death. And just like there will be subjective adjustments to how we view, for instance, the law. This happens all the time. This is why we have judges. Sometimes the person will have technically broke a law, but the judge will be very minimalistic on the charge, or even drop the charge altogether because the person seemed to be acting based on a moral ethic. And usually when crimes happen like this where no one else was harmed, the judges often judge in this to the standard. Then you say, how would you argue that empathy is more rational than self-interest? So it all depends on why. It all depends on why. Like, we need more information in this scenario if we're going to build a scientific model about why, about evaluating the morality of this whole issue. We need all of the information, right? But it seems like what you're trying to get at is like, why is empathy something that we should move towards? Well, it's a subjective collection of everyone's general feeling of wanting to be well themselves. And then they realize, okay, if I want to be well myself, I got to have well people, well others around me, because I'm a social ape and I'm a social species, and I need to have others, partners, children. So the moral code that I live on can't just apply to me, even though there is going to be some times where, your own self-interest. Well, I mean, even from a pleasure drive perspective, all of our body entities are acting selfishly based on, pleasure pursuits. But if we're looking at it from imagining that we have free will perspective, we understand that we're in this situation with others and that we're a social species. So it's part of our evolutionary hardwiring to consider the tribe, right? And then we get to a point where we consider the whole tribe, meaning the whole world, in our general philosophy. And obviously or general morality. And obviously, if you look at different tribes around the world, there's definitely different moral standards. Like in some parts of the world, it still is viewed as moral by people to throw someone off a building and kill them because they happen to be a homosexual. So you can definitely tell that, okay, this moral thing is all subjective, and we're going to have some that butt heads. But what's happening here is we're engaging in a conversation, a philosophical conversation of what ought to be. What ought to be the way that societies raise their children, like what kind of moral code. And the one that seems to yield the best results is the one that everyone is equal, everyone gets a fair crack at being well, and we all work to try to maximize everyone's well-being around us. And that actually does the same for us, because other people, this person and this person, are both trying to maximize the well-being of myself as well. So rational thinking apes can think about this, and it's true that these calculations are being made for selfish reasons, because it is a self-first survival instinct that we have. But part of that is thinking about how these other entities on either side of me are going to interact with me as well. So, golden rule: treat others as I would want to be treated. It all stems from that, really. All right, let's keep cracking on this, guys. We're doing really well. Again, hit that like button if you've just come in the room. Let's try to get it up to 100 likes. That would be awesome. And we'll keep cracking through this, guys. We're doing really well today.
More in Sam's best interest, and perhaps even more in mine, than another. That's all we're saying. We're not pretending remotely that we have the answer to every possible scenario, just that we have the foundational tool set that allows us to come up with the right answers. And we do this in opposition.
Yeah, but you also think that you can do that with a set of rules.
Well, so first
See,
of all...
and I actually don't think that's technically tenable. I don't think there's any evidence for that.
I don't know why it wouldn't be.
Well, you can't build expert systems, for example.
Well, you can't say that you can't, because...
Well, we've tried for about 40 years with no success.
Gee, 40 years out of 13.7 billion, and we haven't cracked it yet, so it's impossible?
But 40 years of exponentially increasing computational power with
Partially.
No solution on the horizon except for AI.
So, and the latest AI thing, which I absolutely love because I'm a chess player, is the DeepMind AlphaZero thing that learned the entirety of what humans know about playing chess in 4 hours or so, and then beat the best previous chess computer. And people are saying, oh, it's the beginning of Skynet because now we have this sort of thinking. However,
Thinking Sapien says at Pangburn, I want to communicate with another species someday like I can with Homo sapiens. I have a feeling you're going to be let down if we do have that ability. If you could get into the mind of a cat or a dog, you're going to be let down with how simplistic the thought processes are and how little you're going to get back, right? And then once you start go from scavenger to predators, you're going to be mortified at the thought process of predators, right? It's going to be like looking into the mind of a serial killer. And then as you move down the evolutionary chain from an intelligence perspective, it's going to get more bleak and bleak and bleak and bleak. But yeah, like if you're talking about AI, for instance, it will be interesting to see what forms of AI are created, and if we're able to keep the harness on AI.
Method produce better results of letting it play itself with chess, giving it no opening book, giving it no history of chess, nothing.
Well, that's my point.
It didn't give it no rules. It gave it the rules of chess and the goal of the game.
Yes, but it didn't give it rules about how to play the game.
Correct.
Right, and that's because rule-based systems about how to play a game aren't optimal.
No.
That's why.
What happened is the AI took the rules of how to play the game and what the winning goal is, and it experimented and found the best ways to achieve that goal. And I think that's what human beings have done throughout the entirety of history. We're physical beings in a physical universe. We have the rules. The goal is to survive, and I would say the goal should be to thrive. Mm-hmm. And we are continually finding the best rules and the best methods. This exactly mirrors the moral system I'm talking about. The idea that there is someone on high telling the computer, don't play H4 as your first move, we threw that out because that's not the best way to find out things. Instead, we plopped the computer down just as we were plopped down in a universe when we gained consciousness and began interacting. And the computer, in the span of a few hours, discovered everything that humanity has discovered about chess. And now they are applying it to the sort of diagnostic things you were talking about. I think that that is directly analogous to what the best explanations of what human beings have done. And what happens, from my perspective, is that the thinking about morality is so difficult for some that it's just easier to say, this person told me, or this God told me, or this is the case. Because having to sit down and do the sort of life inventory to figure out, hey, what's best for us? I mean, even figuring out what the goal of the game is harder for some people, and so they accept and fall into these traps of like authoritarian models of this is what your goal is. And the thing that's probably frustrated me the most, which I talked about on a college campus last year, is if the government was running around dictating to people what their job was going to be, what their future was going to be, as some regimes have done, nobody would appreciate that. Nobody, almost nobody. I'm sure somebody would be, very happy, thank you. I couldn't.
All right, guys, I'm going to announce I promised you guys 3 winners tonight. And these are people who've been engaging in the chat. You win a gift card. I think it'll probably be a $25 gift card to Amazon. And the idea is for you to buy a cool book or an audio or a few audiobooks or whatever, but to spend it on intellectual material. And the first winner for tonight, everyone, give a virtual thumbs up to Marie or Mary Parker. Woo! And I would suggest, since we're listening to Jordan Peterson, if you haven't read 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson, it's an interesting read. Even if you don't agree with everything in it, it is an interesting read since we're watching Jordan and Matt right now. But there's lots of great stuff out there. Michael Shermer just came out with a new book. Lots of great stuff. So Marie Parker, first winner. Now the second winner, someone who's had a lot of questions tonight. Oh, and by the way, if you are a winner, head over to Facebook and send us a message on Facebook and say that you were a winner tonight, and we'll set you up and we'll take care of you. And if you don't have Facebook, you can at the Pangburn on Twitter, send me a message on Twitter, or email us at info@pang-burn.com. Second winner for tonight, I think it'll be a $25 Amazon gift card for intellectual material, is Herd of Sheep S. Herd of Sheep S. You are the second winner. For tonight. And last but not least, is Marky O. Marky O, you are the winner for tonight. All of you guys, congratulations. I really appreciate all of you. I think Marie says, I have no address, I'm homeless. Thank you anyway. But you could get the audiobooks and they send it to you digitally, Marie. So we'll leave it at that for now. But anyways, those are the winners for tonight. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. If you're not subscribed yet, please subscribe, guys. All of you who are viewing tonight, listening in, please subscribe to the channel. Really appreciate it. We do watch parties and live streams all the time. Sometimes I'll jump on for an impromptu live stream just to engage in streams of consciousness with you guys. But yeah, there's lots you can get on Amazon, Marie, audiobooks or whatever. Or you can always re-gift it to someone else. Okay, let's do a little bit more here. And another huge shout out to Andrew T. and Keith Connolly for being our moderators in the chat tonight. Thank you, guys.
figure out what to do. I'm glad I'm going to be, a brain surgeon, even though I don't know anything about it. But if the government was dictating things like that, there would be revolts. There have been revolts. And yet, curiously, when people think there's a God or a divine being or some cosmic consciousness or collective consciousness that has dictated a goal for them, they celebrate it. And that contradiction has bugged me for years.
Yeah, well, there's no doubt that systems of belief, let's say, including religious systems of belief, can devolve into a kind of totalitarian rigidity. I don't think you can necessarily lay that at the feet of religious belief. I mean, human systems...
No, I'm laying it all at humans.
Yeah, I mean, right, it's okay, so it's fine. It's a
I
broader
just view
phenomenon.
humans using religion in that way.
Yeah. So what do we do to close? Because I heard you said that we have to take questions.
Hey, we're going to take some questions. Because I could actually...
Sorry, I didn't mean to commandeer that. I was curious about timing.
You could have just as easily said it, and I'd be happy for another 5 hours talking, but then they'd charge us a fortune, and all these people who have questions that are better than the ones I'm going to come up with. So there's microphones actually up like, yes, where that guy, oh my gosh, he's lit up where we can see him. A couple quick notes about questions. And by the way, thank you. This has been great, and
Thank you.
We'll talk some more. This is where I get to have a bit of fun. Couple notes about questions for those of you who know.
You guys, since we're moving into Q&A, you know what I'm going to do? I think I'll cut the watch party off there for tonight. And I think I'm going to fire it up again tomorrow. And I know that a lot of you, or some of you might not be able to make it tomorrow, but I know a lot of you showed up tonight, so I hope we can get a good chunk of you tomorrow as well. But yeah, I was thinking, why don't we leave it there? We're about to go into the Q&A. We're going to be able to finish this with one more video tomorrow, because I think today is Thursday, isn't it? Yeah, so tomorrow's Friday, and we'll finish it off tomorrow, and we'll give you guys the rest of the night off. But I really appreciate you guys all stopping by tonight. This was a lot of fun. I'm glad so many of you, it looks like, showed up tonight. Please subscribe. Engage in the comment sections of the other videos on this channel. Check out our new stuff every time we post it. Again, thank you, Andrew T. And, of course, thank you, Keith Connolly, for moderating tonight. And we'll be back tomorrow for another watch party, same time, same place. So I hope to see you guys there. And obviously, we're all going through this pandemic right now. Be safe, be cautious, don't panic, no hoarding, but stay reasonable out there. I think that's the most important thing. All right. Thank you all again so much. Thanks to Jordan and Matt, of course, being the features. And as always, let art and science inspire. And congrats to the winners.